It will be but a moment. It's 1900 hours. Okay. Good evening and welcome to Wincanton Town Council full council meeting on the 10th of August, and the time is 1900 hours, which is 7 p.m. This meeting is being recorded via Zoom and also live streamed onto YouTube. Today, the focus of the meeting has been shared in terms of our agenda, so councillors should now confirm by raising a hand you have papers for this meeting and the agenda, please. So can you do so? And I now have a problem with my, one moment. One moment, I've got a problem with signing in for some reason. Because I can't see you, I've got a delayed access. I don't quite understand.
Would you prefer us to say our names to confirm?
Oh, this looks positive. I'm all right, thank you. Thank you for that, whoever spoke, because I didn't hear who that voice was. So can I just ask that you raise your hand if you have receipt of papers and the agenda for today, councillors, please. Thank you. So I have on the call today Councillor Vagg, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Waters, Councillor Edington, Councillor Power, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Smith, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Tudgay and Councillor Old. We have three residents on the call today who will be invited to speak in a moment. But before we do so, you can put your hand down now, Councillor Power, thank you. It's okay. Before I do so, I'd like to remind councillors about our code of conduct in terms of confidentiality. And in addition that during the meeting, public participation will be for no more than 20 minutes once it starts and 3 minutes per person when they speak, and it will, once closed, there'll be no further conversation from members of the public during the meeting. So once it's closed, there'll be no further public participation. Is that understood by public participation residents on this call? Can you demonstrate you've heard what I've said, please? Can you put your hand up?
Yeah, I know now.
Thank you. And Mr. Ellard, could you confirm that you've heard what I've said, please?
I did, and I am aware of that fact. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. So at 3 minutes past 7, I'm now going to move into public participation, and I would ask that you raise your hand if you wish to speak now. So Ms. Carter would like to speak.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Lovely. Well, firstly, I wanted to start with a positive message. I went down to watch the Wincanton cricket team on Saturday afternoon in the Rec, and many of the Ilminster supporters expressed how impressed they were with the playground, the Rec, the whole of Kale Park. And one lady in particular asked me to say a big well done to the town council. Apparently the Rec and Kale Park is the envy of neighbouring towns. So a huge well done. I know Councillor Tudgay, Waters and Smith, possibly others, were involved in all of that for years. And it was just really nice to hear that. So I felt it was appropriate to say that this evening. I have received some questions from residents who can't access by Zoom and don't have the sort of mobility perhaps to get into the town hall. So I've tried to compile them into short questions. So the first one concerning the residents is, would you be able to make, as a council, a statement to the residents of the town, clarifying the full council standing on the displaying of poppies on town council property for remembrance and memorial purposes, please? As a garrison town with a military connection, both past and present, the poppy sits as a symbol of peace, humility, and above all, gratitude to those who serve and have served to give us the freedom we have today. These traditional values sit at the very core of our residents' hearts and minds. The recent reluctance to support displays on town council property in time for VJ Day has caused considerable sadness and disappointment. Could you listen to that request, please, Chair, and make a statement so that the residents know what's coming in the future for perhaps Remembrance Day in November? The second one that is raising concern is the current vulnerability of the sports ground. Now, that huge green area down there, that massive green space, hundreds of residents use it daily for free. And this is their concern, and I have tried to put this into a simple question. Can you reassure the voters of Wincanton that your decision to cut the sports ground funding to a record low, leaving that huge acreage of green space vulnerable to approaches by property developers, has no connection, Madam Chairman, to your private meeting with Bill Hopkins a matter of weeks before the funding was cut? And that you recognise that not informing the rest of the council of your lone, unminuted meeting with this developer beforehand looks inappropriate at least and concerning at worst. And the last question is, the Local Government Code of Conduct clearly states that any chair of a town council must, and I quote, create a cohesive working council which listens to its residents and fellow members. Now, Madam Chairman, with 2 town clerks now off sick, a town hall closed, no financial officer, no auditor, and council meetings achieving nothing other than protecting your own position.
You're at 3 minutes now, Ms. Carter. So if you would finish promptly, that would be great. Thank you.
2 minutes 40. I'll finish this question and then go. With 2 town, I won't repeat that. Your full council meetings, twice including the voting in of new councillors, repeatedly demonstrating poor practices and lack of procedure, whilst viewed by hundreds of residents. Many local and national community groups are now refusing to work with you. There is no shame in taking on the role of chair of the town council and finding that you can't do it. The shame is pretending you can and taking the whole council down with you. Is this a cohesive council under your chairmanship?
Thank you very much. Ms. Carter, you are now 7 minutes, so it's more than 3 now. So on my computer, you're now at 8, so you were over 3 minutes. So thank you very much. And I've heard what you've said and it's noted. Can I invite someone else to speak now? We have 2 more residents that have joined the call since we started. I don't know if they wish to take part in public participation, but if you do, could you come off, put your camera on just to make me know that that is the case when the time comes. I'm now going to invite Ian Phillips to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Nationwide, we're hearing a lot about local lockdowns because of coronavirus and COVID-19. Does the town council have a plan for dealing with a potential local lockdown in Wincanton? And if not, are the councillors willing to meet with me to try to discuss arrangements that we could implement should it affect Wincanton? As such, in the last 5 to 6 months, I haven't had any council contact with the town council regarding coronavirus, and I would welcome the opportunity of doing that because I feel it is part of your remit as a local authority. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you. Your comments are noted, and also we are discussing our town offer later in the plan, later in the agenda. Mr. Ellard.
Thank you very much. I have 5 things I want to say. Firstly, do the town council have any policies that relate to the bullying or harassment of employees? Please, can these be released for public scrutiny? Secondly, I note that you adopted a range of new HR policies at your meeting of last Monday. Can these also be released for public scrutiny? Thirdly, What exactly are the policies or standing orders that relate to public participation and answering questions posed by the town's residents? At your last meeting, it was stated that there would be no public participation, but then the mayor made a statement as a resident. How is this permissible? Does the mayor think she has a right to speak as a resident when she has disallowed others from doing the same? What is the council's current understanding of their obligations under the notion of joint and several liability? Do councillors still believe that this does not extend to all of them? And in the event of financial matters, do the council still believe that they have no such liability and that somehow an insurance policy could protect them in the event that they mishandle matters? I understand that the council's own advisors have said that each and all of the councillors can be held responsible for mishandling matters and the financial consequences that may arise as a result. Does council still choose not to believe this? And if so, why do you still believe this? And my fifth point, the reputation of this council is very low amongst the residents of the town. I believe that this is because of the actions and attitude of the mayor and the councillors that seem to follow her regardless of what she says and does. How does the council propose to rectify this? Simply ignoring the situation in the belief that it will all calm down is not an acceptable way forward. Surely there should be a public statement from the council rather than the mayor to show your intentions. And finally, Mayor, I believe your clock is wrong. You timed Liz Carter from 7 o'clock when public participation didn't start until 5 past. Yet another error. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ellard. And we have 2 other members of the public on the meeting today. Do you wish to speak? And if so, could you unmute or take your video off, please? I will give you a minute to decide, or 30 seconds. Thank you. Would you like to speak? Thank you. I welcome you, Victoria Muscat.
I've been trying to keep out of all this because I think it's horrible, but I just feel I have to say that what is happening in Wincanton is just full of positivity and hope and all sorts of exciting things. And I think it's time we got behind the positive rather than constantly going about the negative. That's all.
Thank you. And is there anyone else who'd like to speak in the meeting? No? I'll give 30 seconds for you to unmute. If not,
no, I don't need anything. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, you're very welcome. So I'm now closing public participation. So thank you all for your comments. They have been noted, and we will respond to those items that have been spoken about today as part of the agenda, and other items will be discussed as part of a response from the Town Council. So moving on in terms of our agenda today, can I now move to apologies? So I'm aware we have apologies. Councillor Tudgay, would you like to speak?
Yes, Chair. We have apologies from Councillors Hearn, Greening and Thomas.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And Sue Hinks would like to speak.
Yes, Councillor.
Apologies from Councillor Rogers. He's not feeling well.
Okay, thank you.
I'll add him to the list.
Thank you. And Councillor Old, I saw you put your hand up. Do you wish to speak on the apologies?
No, it was the same as Sue, just to mention that Phil's unwell.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So moving on our agenda, as we have no further apologies to note, declarations of interest is point 2. So members to declare any interest they may have in an agenda item or items that accord with the requirements of the Council Code of Conduct. So under the agenda items today, are there any councillors who wish to declare a declaration of interest? No? Thank you. Moving on to point 3 on the agenda. So councillors have confirmed they have receipt of minutes. So we have a number of minutes we will be, yes, Councillor Tudgay.
Chair, sorry to butt in. Can I suggest that we take these minutes as a whole, each minute as a whole, rather than page by page, as we did at the last meeting? it was over an hour and a quarter last time we did these minutes, and everybody should have read them, and they should have their little list of anything that they want to raise. So to try and save a bit of time, can I suggest that we take each minute as a whole rather than page by page?
Okay, that's
Can I
fine.
second that, please? It's how it's always used to be done, and it makes most sense. Thank you.
So proposer by Councillor Tugger and a seconder by Councillor Old to take the minutes as a whole, and you've all moved around again, and a vote from the floor to support us taking the minutes as a whole. So I'm going to start at the bottom and work up this time. So I have Councillor Old, Councillor Tugger, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Smith, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Power, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow, and Councillor Vagg. Thank you. So from that, I take is unanimously supported. I don't believe I've missed any councillors. If I have, please raise your hand, because I'm on a laptop rather than the bigger screen, so it's potentially possible I've missed you. Okay. So let's start with the minutes of the 21st. The minutes of the 21st. So taking the point that we will take them as a whole, in terms of the minutes, do I have any questions or comments regarding the minutes of the 21st of July? No? Can I then say, can I have a proposer for those minutes, please? Councillor Power. Can I have a seconder for the minutes of the 21st, please? Councillor Waters. And can I have a vote, please, from the floor? So following the same principle, Councillor Old, Councillor Tugger, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Smith, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Power, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow, and Councillor Vagg are all in support. So far as I can see, that's a full set approving the minutes. Again, 4, and there's no one against, so I'm taking that as approved, and this is the e-signature for those minutes at 19:17. Thank you. The next set of minutes are Monday the 27th of July. As previously stated, there are 3 pages for these sets of minutes. Are there any comments in relation to the set of minutes of the 27th of July? No. So can I have a proposer, please, in support of the minutes of the 27th of July, if there are no comments? Councillor Power. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Smith. And a vote from the floor, please. So starting at the bottom, I have Councillor Tugger, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Smith, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Power, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow, and Councillor Vagg. Did anyone note how many falls there were for the minutes? Pardon?
9.
How many?
9.
Thank you. And against? And those abstaining? So we have two councillors abstaining. So that's Councillor Old and Councillor Hinks. So in terms of these minutes, they are unanimously supported from, sorry, they're not unanimously, they're supported by 9 councillors and none against and 2 abstaining. Is that correct? Excellent. So I'm now signing these as a final e-signatory for the minutes of today, the 27th of July. Moving on to the 3rd of August. So on the 3rd of August, we held an extraordinary meeting. Again, there are 2 pages to these minutes. Can I first ask for any comments or regarding the minutes, please? No one is stating or wishing to speak. So in terms of a proposer for these minutes, can I have a proposer for the minutes? Councillor Tugger, Can I have a seconder? Councillor Smith. And can I have a vote for the minutes, please? So starting at the bottom of the page, I have Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Smith, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Power, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Shelbourne Barrow, and Councillor Vagg. So that is 1, 2, 9. Is that correct?
9 again, yes.
And against, councillors voting against the minutes. And those abstaining. So we have no councillors voting against, but 2 councillors abstaining, which is Councillor Rold and Councillor Hinks. So can you confirm the majority supported the minutes and the majority was 9, please? If that's correct.
That's correct, yeah.
So I'm signing these as an e-signatory for the minutes today on the 3rd of August. Thank you very much, councillors. Moving on to...
Sorry, Sue, just before we move on, can I just raise one point? I think it would be really nice if, after all the hoo-ha of the last meeting, if those that were wrong about Muriel's minute taking could possibly email her and apologise, or even better, if they could do it publicly on this screen. Thank you very much.
I'm not clear what that's about, and I can see an awful lot of councillors looking very perplexed by that comment, Councillor Rold. Firstly, I'm not aware that that was the case. Rather than following this further in this meeting, I think it would be
Muriel
useful.
did send you an email and all of you chose to ignore it, apart from Kirsten. So it'd be really nice if somebody could acknowledge the fact that they were wrong in the last meeting. Thank you. Or sorry, it wasn't in the last meeting, it was on the previous meeting, not on the EGM.
Okay, well, those minutes are now signed off again. Councillor Vagg, would you like to speak?
Which particular email that would be, so we can look for it. Could you hear?
No.
I can't really hear what you're saying, Vicky, but if you're asking for the particular email, I can find it if you want, and I will read it out in the next meeting. If you really don't know which email it is.
Right, can I just ask around code of conduct and respect, let's not talk over one another, please. What I would like to say is, in terms of the point that Councillor Old has made, we will look into that. Myself and Councillor Tudgay, Deputy Chairman, will look into that, and we will pick that up through personnel, I think, because we need to be clear about what exactly the question is and also how to respond. So moving now on, thank you, to the previous meeting, point 4, to note correspondence. So councillors will have the papers on this. This item was moved forward and wasn't taken in our extraordinary meeting on the 3rd. And the key points I think that I'd like to draw attention to is the email from Councillor Thomas on the 17th of July 2020, subject Christmas lights. This is a statement to note for council that he has withdrawn from the Christmas decoration or the Christmas decoration lights, and that he would like that minuted as part of our minutes for today's meeting. Obviously, this relates to a previous meeting, but for today we will note it as this is the day we're discussing correspondence. In terms of other areas, there's also a David Kenyon message around Bayford Hill, which is in the correspondence. Is there anything, Councillor Tudgay, leading on planning today, you wish to discuss around that?
No, Chair, I think we should just acknowledge Mr. Kenyon's email, thank him very much, and note it. Okay,
so we need to acknowledge that in due course. And the final, it's all related to, this final point is related to a temporary road closure, which will take place on the 24th of August. So again, this is just for councillors to note. Can I ask, if you're not speaking and to manage noise, you mute yourself wherever possible, please? Are there any other comments in relation to the correspondence of the 27th of July? Yes, Councillor Old?
Not in relation to the 27th of July, but I would like to table a motion that we move all correspondence up and discuss it now, because there's members of the public that are getting very upset that their correspondence is getting ignored. In particular, my neighbours June and Paul would like their letter read out and acknowledged.
Okay, Councillor Tudgay, would you like to respond?
Well, I think we could deal with, I assume it's Mr. and Mrs. Spencer. We can deal with that under planning if you like, Dawn. The rest, I think the rest of the correspondence should stay in its normal place.
Thank you. Is everyone, in terms of that proposal, does anyone second that proposal? Councillor Hinks?
I'd like to second what Dawn said, because if we leave the meeting goes on like it did last time, we're not going to have the correspondence then it means another meeting next week.
Okay, Councillor Hinks. Does anyone support the proposal to move correspondence up the agenda, other than the point that has already been noted where the one planning correspondence can move under planning? Is anyone in support?
I'm happy to support moving that one item to planning. That seems to make sense.
Thank you. So anyone else supporting planning moving to point 5, the one area in correspondence? So let's go around the room. So in terms of voting, I have Councillor Power, Councillor Old, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Smith, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow and Councillor Vagg. So from the meeting that I can see, I believe there's all councillors have supported the one planning item moving to point 5. Thank you. So moving on to planning. Councillor Tudgay, you are the planning officer for this evening, so thank you very kindly for doing that.
Well, we actually have no plans, which is nice, but we do have this letter from Mr. and Mrs. Spencer. Now, to reply to Mr. and Mrs. Spencer, it is not the town council's responsibility to notify people of planning applications. That falls under the remit of South Somerset District Council and I believe the applicant. Both the items of which Mr. and Mrs. Spencer refer to in their letter were dealt with and went through council under the proper planning procedure. The first one for the removal of the hedge and the erection of the fence was 18/00086/TCA, which was dealt with in very early January 2018. And the erection of the garage was dealt with under 19/02028/HOU, and that was dealt with in around early August 2019. So I think that should be the basis of our reply to Mr. and Mrs. Spencer.
Councillor Old?
Can that please be put in writing to them? Because I have tried to explain it to them, but they're a very elderly couple. They would appreciate a letter addressing their concerns. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So Councillor Tudgay, is there anything else in terms of planning you wish to talk about? An acknowledgement, letters or anything? No. Okay, thank you. So moving on, please. We're now moving to point 6, which on our agenda is to approve the list of payments. So looking at point 6, are there any questions in relation to the monthly checks for August? No? Okay. So in terms of, there are no questions being posed for monthly checks for August. Can I ask for a proposer, please, for the checks? Councillor Tudgay, a seconder, Councillor Power. And can I have a vote if you're in support of for the actual checks for August? So I'm going to start at the bottom and work up. So Councillor Power, Councillor Old, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Smith, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrett, and Councillor Vagg. And there are no against, I believe, because I believe that's a full set, and obviously no abstaining. Thank you. So in terms of signing that off, we've approved the checklist for August. Now we need to approve 2 people as signatories for the checks for August. So I need 2 individuals. So Councillor Tudgay has put his hand up to go and sign the checks, and Councillor Waters, thank you. So those checks will be available for signing tomorrow. So thank you. If there is any issues with that, then we can have a further discussion, and we would need to consider how that is managed. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the Finance Committee. So this is an item to reinstate the Finance Committee following our, when we had delegation of powers, we stopped all committees. We reinstated when we recommenced in May the 26th, and this is to recommence the Finance Committee in its own right. When looking on the website, the membership for that committee is Councillor Smith, Councillor Vagg, and Councillor Hinks. And I normally attend that meeting as well as chair. So in terms of reinstating it, this is to confirm that we reinstate. We have terms of reference, which will go to the first meeting of the Finance Committee. And currently the Finance Committee is due to take place on the 26th of October. That's its designated date. However, once we're able to, it may be pertinent to actually instruct a meeting sooner than the 26th of October. So today is to put a proposal forward to reinstate the committee with the named councillors that I've just mentioned now, and to recommence on the 26th of October. So can I have a proposer and a seconder, please, for that motion? Councillor Ralph, are you proposing? And Councillor Smith, are you seconding? Yes, that's an affirmative. And can I have a vote in support of reinstating the Finance Committee? So keep your hands up, please, for a period of time. So I have Councillor Power, Councillor Old, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Smith, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Smith, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrett, and Councillor Vagg. So far as I'm aware, that's a full set. So there's no one against and no one abstaining. So that motion is carried. Is that correct? And I'm getting affirmative from Councillor Vagg. Thank you. Now we're moving on to the neighbourhood plan. So this actual, this item came onto our agenda on the 9th of March. And it came onto the agenda under 0842. And that came from an email dated the 27th of February around HELAA, which is Housing, Economic and Land Assessment, and another word that's left my brain. The purpose of this is to bring a working group together to look at our current plan and look at how we can consider what our high street looks like and whether there's the data available to do that. In addition, to look at commercial and residential areas as other councils have done in the vicinity, where they've strengthened their plan accordingly. So this is a building of a process. The clerk identified following that meeting on the 2nd of June, went to the consultant who led on the initial neighbourhood plan And we've now identified a consultancy firm to have that initial conversation, but the working group would also include South Somerset District Council and other interested parties wherever appropriate, to actually shape what that might look like. So that's what the neighbourhood plan 0.88 is about in terms of setting out the scope for that. What I now like to do is open it up to the floor. So I currently have Councillor Old with a hand up.
Yeah, thank you. There's a couple of points I want to raise on this. I actually sat on that committee from the start with Howard and Colin. It took over 3 years to make any progress with it. And there's a couple of points that I want to make. Firstly, I do believe for consistency, we do need to employ the same consultants to carry it on. Otherwise, you're going to have to rewrite the entire thing, because it just won't make any sense. The other thing I'd like to say is it should last for a minimum of 5 years. It's only 2 years old at the moment. I agree we do need to review it. However, I believe it's something that we should preset for next year. I do not believe we need to start undertaking anything at this moment in time. Also, you really do need to understand that there's restrictions on what we can put into that plan, and we can't touch the high street. We can't even really touch commercial premises. And if we do, the planning inspector will basically not agree with it, and it will be a complete and utter waste of money. So I'm asking you to do a lot of research around this, a lot of reading up and a lot of understanding, and to precept it for next year so that we can get it right. Otherwise, I think it's just going to be a waste of time doing it this early.
Thank you, Councillor Old. Councillor Tudgay.
Chair, I've been concerned about our plan for some while now, mainly because I feel that any plan is only as good as the day it's written on. In reality, as soon as you write a plan, it goes out of date as the days and years and weeks go on. The other thing is, we brought this subject up in a council meeting at which our county councillor, Anna Groscott, was present. And she indicated to us that we should, in fact, review the plan every year in the same way that we should review all our other policies. So I think it certainly would be worth looking at the plan. I do take Councillor Ode's point that we ought to put a sum of money aside in next year's precept. I also think it should be noted that the original consultant, I'm led to believe, is no longer available to do the job. So
Yeah.
I would like that noted as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Edington, you also had your hand up. Would you like to speak?
Just to agree with Dawn regarding allocating money next year from the precept, we are already spending money that has not been budgeted for, and who knows what contingencies we're going to have to cover going forward.
Thank you. Councillor Old, you've spoken once. I'll allow you to speak again, but that will be it for this
Yeah,
motion.
sorry, a very quick point. Ray, I believe Anna meant that we should review our local plan, which is different to our neighbourhood plan. I think she wants us to review the local plan every single year.
Right, so Councillor Power, you would like to speak, and then Councillor Ralph.
Is the plan on the town council website to access to have a look at it? Because I wasn't on the council when it came out, so just want to have a little look at it.
Yeah, so it's actually available. I think it's on our website, but also if you want to look in more detail, all of the papers, including other councils, are available on SSDC's website. So you can go in and look and compare to others as well, so you get a better understanding of our plan compared to others, although we're all individual. Councillor Ralph, is that okay? Sorry, before I move on, is that okay, Councillor Power?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Ralph to speak, please?
Hi, I just wanted to say that as well as the neighbourhood plan on our website, there is this document. It's the report on the Wincanton neighbourhood plan that was taken out by some independent examiners. It is quite a it's quite a dry read, I warn everyone, but there is some important points in there, I think, which are worth us reconsidering. Though I applaud the good work of the neighbourhood plan. I was actually involved in in the beginnings of the one where I lived at the time when these were all written first time round. It's good work, but I think it's also worth us as a working group considering the points that come up in the examiner's report.
Thank you. Any other comments from councillors who have not yet spoken? No? So in terms of a proposal for today, is there anyone prepared to shape a proposal in terms of point 8? If not, I will. Yeah, Councillor Old, is this shaping a proposal?
Yeah, I'm going to put the proposal on the table that we do some research and start talking about it, but it's actually preceptive for next year and not undertaken work this year.
Okay, does anyone support that proposal? Councillor Hinks?
Yeah,
sorry, Councillor Hinks, are you seconding?
yes, I am.
Okay, can I have a vote if you're in support, or sorry, before I move to that, are there any other proposals anyone would like to put forward? Councillor Ralph.
Can I ask a question on that front, point of clarification? What is the actual timeline? So if we support that proposal, when does it mean that this work starts?
The idea around the working group was to actually look at, from my perspective, and I'll let Councillor Tudgay speak as well in a moment, is that we investigate what the likelihood is of making any changes in this current financial year if the data is available. If the data isn't available, and clearly that's a bigger piece of work, then ultimately that will require us to precept it for next year. However, if the data is available, it might, until we do the piece of work to understand what that looks like, we won't know what the costs are. So the first point of call for me, and the reason why on the 9th of March we had that initial discussion, was to convene a working group with the consultancy, with SSDC and other partners in the town to ensure that we did understand the data and what is possible in this financial year or not. Councillor Tudgay, do you want to respond to that, Councillor Ralph, before I move to Councillor Tudgay?
Can I just leave you with one further question, if that's okay? So what would be the cost of this work for this year before we go to precept next year?
We just don't know. That's the point. We need to do.
There's no cost to investigating.
No, there's no cost to investigate it. There shouldn't be a cost to investigate it. What we need to understand is does it entail? Councillor Tudgay?
Yeah, so I would tend to agree. I think we ought to start investigating and as Dawn said, researching and having a look at this whole thing. I think we could set up a working group and do that without spending any money until next year. So I would tend to go along with that, but I do think we really must sit down and start to look at it. I don't think it would be any good to leave the whole thing until next year.
No. Okay, thank you. Councillor Hinks, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I would just like to say we've got an awful lot of other things to sort out first, which is costing a lot of money. So I think we need to sort of put our house in order before we start spending a lot of money which seems like at the moment we might not have.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is there's two proposals. One, to set up.
I was going to say, would you like me to revise my proposal? So my proposal would be, I'm happy for a working group to be set up, commenced and everything, and for us to start making the investigations. But I would like us to not spend any money on this year, but to precept for it next year. Lizzie, in context, it was £24,500 it cost us to do. It's a massive piece of work. So I just think it needs thinking about, if that's okay. That's my revised proposal.
Yeah, that's fine. And I think what we're talking about is not a rewrite of the current plan. It's a bolt-on, from my understanding of what is available. So the proposal is put forward by Councillor Rold. We convene a working group. We look at what that might entail to then bring something back to council to incorporate within the precept for 21-22. Is that the proposal we're now saying? Yes? So we have a proposal. Can I have a seconder? That's Councillor Smith. And can I have a vote from the floor in support of that proposal? So starting at the bottom, I have Councillor Power, Councillor Old, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Smith, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow and Councillor Vagg. So from my seeing of hands, I believe that's a full set, but no one is against or abstaining. So the motion is carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Wincanton Town Offer. So the Wincanton Town Offer, this is a working group that actually was, we posed last time, but it got mixed up with an emergency continuity plan. This is a plan that we currently have in place within the town to support our vulnerable. It isn't a medical plan, it's about society and it's about social action and volunteering and groups within the town like the Bolson Centre, living at home, the food bank and ourselves providing an option around hardship parcels using the food bank offer to come together and look at currently where we are, because we've revised that plan since we put it into place in March a number of times in terms of adjusting it to meet the need as we went into lockdown. Now what we need to do is look at the long term in terms of what the opportunities are. When that plan was put into place, for context, all external bodies were contacted, and that includes not only the village agents, Spark, it also includes our local general practice, it also included the police, and it also included CAB when we linked with the Citizens Advice Bureau and any other interested party as we implemented the actual plan to meet the needs of our most vulnerable. So this group is to come together as a working group to assess what's currently been delivered and then to adapt it for the future, because even if we don't go into lockdown again in terms of a flare-up around COVID, it is likely that we will need some form of support for some of our most vulnerable around mental health and support in their homes. So that is an outline of the town offer, which I think I presented in March to you. Do councillors wish to speak or have any questions or comments? I can see no hands going up. I have Councillor Old placing a hand up.
Yeah, just wondering if that new offer is now obviously going to include the health centre, because Ian said he was left out. And also the fire brigade wanted to be included in that originally, and they weren't either.
Okay, so the original offer did include the general practice, and I'm sorry that if Mr. Phillips wasn't aware, but we were in regular engagement because we receive referrals from a number of different bodies. But in terms of a working group, we can invite the fire brigade to be an active member in that, yes. Any other questions? No? So the proposal is that we set up a working group of the great and the good across the town to come together to review the plan that started in March through to when we hold the meeting, to identify what the future might look like that's within our responsibility as a town council and within the town. It doesn't impact on the issues that are directly related to the NHS or government. So that's a different type of plan. So that's the proposal. Can I have a seconder, please, for that proposal? Councillor Power, and can I have a vote if you're in support of that? So going round the room, so I have Councillor Power with his hand up, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Smith, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow, and Councillor Vagg. Those against that proposal? And abstaining. So I have no one against and 2 abstaining, which is Councillor Old and Councillor Hinks. Thank you. Moving on to town council meetings. So this item's on the agenda because, as many of you know, you've been in receipt of guidance from NAUC that there is a risk assessment around COVID that's available to councils and other bodies to undertake. The reason why it's on the venue on our agenda today is to look at whether or not we can return to council chamber for meetings, or if we look for an alternative venue within Wincanton that would meet our needs in terms of council, staff, and the general public as a whole, and obviously district and county councillor representatives at that point. So in terms of a discussion point, does anyone wish to discuss this further? Have any comments or questions? Councillor Vag, and then Councillor Old.
Much as I personally dislike the acoustics in the town hall, at the same time, I can't think of another venue that would be big enough, because with 15 councillors, 3 external councillors and a clerk as a potential minimum for many meetings, that's 19 people. We're supposed to keep two meters apart. It's going to be difficult to find anywhere else.
Okay, that's a very good point. Thank you. Any other points from council? Councillor Hinks and then Councillor Old.
I think Dawn was before me, so I'll let.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Old.
Yeah, I was actually going to say similar to Vicky, and no disrespect to anybody, but we do have some elderly members of the council who are quite at risk with their health, and I do think that we should probably for the moment stay on Zoom out of respect to them now that they're actually on Zoom.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing is, in terms of, yes, Councillor Tugay.
I don't disagree with what's been said, but would there be any benefit to actually undertaking the risk assessment? Because if we undertook the risk assessment and it was a flat no, that would concrete the issue, seal the issue over. I just wonder whether there is any point or any benefit to undertaking the risk assessment.
Thank you, Councillor Hinks. That's your second time of speak. Oh no, you've just pointed out I missed Councillor Old. Sorry, I pardon. Councillor Hinks.
Yeah, I was going to say, how about inquiring if we all wanted to meet and get the general public there? How about the Memorial Hall if they didn't charge us too much, because that is a very big area, and we've also got the Sun Lounge and the Old Lounge.
That's a great idea. Thank you. So with that in mind, then what we're now saying is we're open to undertaking the now COVID-19 risk assessment to return to meetings in person. We will undertake that as part of the chamber at the town hall, but also explore other venues, including the Memorial Hall, in terms of does it meet the assessment and what the costs might entail to do that, to then come back to council. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
So can I have, yes, Councillor Edington.
Can I just ask, as an add-on to the possibility of going back to meeting in person, whether it will be possible to continue with YouTube, showing the meetings on YouTube? At the moment, there are over 30 people watching this meeting. The meeting on the 13th of July had 1,000 views. Best one in the world, or you ain't going to get 1,000 people in a meeting, wherever it is. So with this added increased interest in the town council and its workings, can we look at continuing to stream on YouTube even when we go back to council chambers? Thank you.
Any other comments? So what I would say to you is it's twofold. I would say the proposal is we undertake the risk assessment in the chamber, but also exploring other options, including the Memorial Hall, which is a good option, I believe, from what councillors are saying. In terms of what you're also talking about, which is a hybrid meeting, I am aware nationally they are looking at a hybrid model. So at this moment in time, I don't think we could move to a hybrid model unless NAUC provide the guidance for us to do so. However, going forward, I believe that will become an option, so it will then be available. So in the first instance, can I break it down into two parts? One is we undertake the risk assessment, and that's a proposal. And the second element is when we will revisit doing a hybrid model as and when that guidance is available from now. Okay, so that's the proposal. Can I have a proposer and a seconder? So Councillor Power, are you proposing? Yes. And can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Waters. And can I have a vote in support of that proposal as I've just outlined? So I'm going round the room. So I have Councillor Power, Councillor Old, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Smith, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow, and Councillor Vagg. Now, as far as I'm aware, that's a full set, so there's no one against and no one abstaining. So Councillor Vagg has confirmed it's a unanimous agreement to undertake the risk assessment as point one, and then to consider again in a later date the hybrid model when now release the guidance on that. Moving on then, please, thank you. Christmas tree. So this is on the agenda because we order our Christmas tree usually Q1, Q2 of every year. We have a budget of 5k for the Christmas tree and decorations. We're aware that in terms of the Christmas decorations, one element of that proposal has withdrawn. The Christmas tree, I understand previously, a similar amount is around £3,000, 3,500 for the Christmas tree, which is purchasing the Christmas tree, installing it and decorating it. So the proposal or the discussion I'm looking to open with you is, are we open to confirming today we wish to purchase a Christmas tree of around that sum? And if not, what is another proposal? Councillor Old.
I'm happy to stick with the proposal of purchasing a Christmas tree. All I was going to say, and I'm sure the older members of the council will agree here, I think we reached that cost because a particular ex-councillor had, what's the right way of putting this, well, she had an issue with how big it was. I'm not so sure it needs to be quite as big as it has been. It can be reasonable, but I'm not sure it needs to be the cost that it's been in the last few years. Ray, do you have any thoughts on that? Maybe?
Councillor Tudgay, can I invite you to speak, please?
You don't want to know my views on Christmas, full stop.
Okay, Councillor Tudgay, thank you for that. So I don't disagree. I think that we don't know what the costs of Christmas trees are for this financial year because they vary every year. So what we're saying is we're prepared to order a Christmas tree. That's the proposal. We're saying a similar cost to last year, which was around 3k of the 5k budget. And I don't know what that's going to buy us. I don't know whether that's going to buy us a 6-foot tree, 20-foot tree, but you know, in principle, as long as it's similar to what we had last year, are we in agreement? Because we don't have a clerk to confirm exactly how much the tree cost. So I'm going to open. Councillor Waters, are you supporting purchasing a Christmas tree to value or a comment?
Both really. I just thought that this year has been a bit difficult for a lot of people, and to see a really nice real Christmas tree lit up in the middle of town might make people feel a bit better.
Yep, lovely. That's a really great statement. Thank you. Councillor Power, do you wish to speak?
Our second proposal, but I can't believe we talk about it in August, really.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Councillor Hinks, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to second about purchase a Christmas tree.
And Councillor Vagg, sorry, do you wish to speak?
Yes, if that's okay. I think we could go with something that still look pretty special, but not be as gigantic as it was last year. Not small, not dingy, but you know, a decent size, and it probably should come in a bit less.
Right, this is going to be interesting. Go for it, go for it, Councillor Ord.
I was just going to say there was a few occasions last season when we did suspect that it might actually fall down because it was so big, and it wasn't, you know, it was just with the high winds and stuff at that time of year, it was just a bit kind of dodgy. So I support what Vicky's saying. We can still have something that's amazing, but it doesn't necessarily need to be as big.
Right, so we have one member of the Christmas tree group on this call, Councillor Tudgay. So what do you envisage a reasonable, let's just, do we say 3,000, 2,000, and we just get what we get for the money, and whatever that is the tree? Because it's installing it and dressing it. It's not just purchasing the tree. So
no, the installing, the collecting of the tree from wherever we get it and bringing it and putting it in and the decorating will probably cost as much, if not more, than the actual price of the tree. So I think if we put a maximum of £3,000, and if we can come in under that, then that's a bit of a bonus, would be my view.
Okay, thank you.
It's a bit difficult, like we say, without having the clerk here to inform us exactly what we spent last year, and without trolling back through the accounts. So I would suggest that we put a maximum of £3,000 on the price of the actual tree erection and decoration of.
Thank you. That sounds to me like a good plan. Of the 5,000 that we have protected for the budget anyway. Councillor Edington, I noted at 2000 hours you got up and left. Are you happy with the conversation that we've had? Oh, you'd have to unmute, sorry.
It's okay, I had to go get a glass of water, but can hear what's happening.
Okay, I just didn't want us to vote on something you weren't clear on. So the proposed, you're going to get a drink now, are you, Councillor Tudgay? Okay, but can you vote first? Councillor Tudgay, you're voting for, the proposal is a tree. Councillor Tudgay is proposing the tree. Can I have a seconder at £3,000, Councillor Power? And we're going to go around and do a vote, which I believe Councillor Tudgay did a double thumb, but we'll hopefully do him last and then he'll be back. So, yes, he's done a vote. So Councillor Tudgay is in support of the proposal. Councillor Old, Councillor Power, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Smith, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow, and Councillor Vagg. So I believe that's unanimous. Is that correct, Councillor Vagg? So there's no one against or abstaining. Thank you for that. Right, now moving on to the next item on our agenda, which is correspondence. We have a number of items of correspondence that was shared with Council prior to the meeting today. We've dealt with one in planning, which was related to planning. So in fact, yes, Councillor Tudgay.
Chair, before you go through these items of correspondence, I would just like to remind my fellow councillors about confidentiality when we're discussing some of these items. It seems to me that we've been a little bit loose with what we say and when we say it. And when we're discussing certain matters, we should realise that they are of a confidential nature. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So there, apart from the one item that was moved up the agenda, there are 11 items. Oh, sorry, is there 11 items? Yes, sorry, there are 12 items, I beg your pardon, in terms of correspondence. Now, each correspondence will be treated differently. I'm not going to read them per se because it will take some time because they have been shared. However, what I would say to you is if I look through them individually, we will be responding to point number 1, which is a complaint from a resident, will be responded to in terms of process and where that complaint should be shared. Point 2, number 2, again, we will review and a letter will be going out to the named individual that submitted the complaint. and we will be stating the process that will be followed. Point 3 is in relation to the chair of Somerset Rivers, which is authority, which is just an information sharing, so no action is due, and councillors are aware of that because it was shared on email. Point 4, there will be a response in terms of this, and it has been written and shared with council, and it will be shared with the individual who submitted the, let's look at the wording, correspondence and complaints, formal complaints. Final item, fifth item is in relation to weed spraying in Wincanton. So this is related, I believe, to a particular product that I'm not going to name it, that has cancer related issues to it, that was a reason why it's come to council. So what one of our groundsmen is asking, our maintenance supervisor, is whether or not we as council would support SSDC weed spraying in the town. So can I have a view of that from council, please? Councillor Auld.
Personally, I wouldn't, but I would like to see consultation with the catch team, because if it ends up in the river, I don't even want to think about it, to be honest. I'm not in agreement, but I would like catch to be asked for their view.
Okay, catch to be asked for their view. Any other comments from council? So in terms of next, yes, Councillor Tugger and then Councillor Vag.
This is a difficult one because we want the town to look neat and tidy, and if they don't spray them, then the weeds will simply be left to grow because they don't have the manpower to get rid of them by any other method. I just think it needs a little bit more thought than simply say not to spray. I just think we need to sit down and think about this, because the next thing you'll be having complaints from people about, thistles and nettles and all the rest of it blowing all around the town, and that won't do our image any good either. So, it's not quite as simple as spraying or not spraying.
Okay.
The spray they're using, I assume, is the same one they've used for several years, and we haven't had, I'm not a great fan of spraying at all in this situation, but I don't believe we've had any issues with the river. But I do take Dawn's point that we should at least consult with Catch on this matter.
Okay, Councillor Vag.
I don't think we've actually had enough information to say we're going to spray the weeds around the town. They haven't said where. Are they going to spray in all the cracks of the pavements up and down the high street, around the park? I think we need more information before we can make a considered response.
So, Councillor Tugger, you are the chair of Kale Park Group, aren't you? Would this normally sit in your remit? No.
No, because they spray they do the pavements, and they come around on a little quad bike and they zoom up and down the streets, and they do when they get, in and around the parked cars, they zoom up and down the pavements and the streets and do the curbs and the curb edges.
Okay.
So no, it's greater than the recreation ground.
Okay, no, that's fine. Councillor Auld, can I invite you to speak? And that would be the second time on this motion. So we probably
sorry, it's just occurred to me that, in this day and age, I really can't believe that there's not another alternative apart from a carcinogenic weed killer. There must be different ones available. There must be. So perhaps can we not ask, if we were to spend maybe a bit more money, dare I say, might there be something else available that we can use? Because I support what Ray's saying, but equally it's the environmental aspect.
Okay, Councillor Power. Thank you, Councillor Auld.
I'm sure I've seen people burn them with like a little flamethrower.
Oh God, yeah, probably. That just brings all sorts of risk assessments to mind. But yes, I can believe that is the case, Councillor Power. I would say, from what I'm hearing here, that we need to go back and ask our maintenance supervisor to capture more information on the products and the other options that are available to us, to come back to council for a decision to be made. Is that what we're saying? Yes, Councillor Hinks.
Is it years ago when we had the old highways council in town, you used to get a gang which just go along with their shovels and what have you and scrape the edge of the curbs. Can't we sort of get some sort of like volunteer youth to come along and do that now?
Okay.
That would get rid of all the weeds, and it would be also be environmental friendly.
So what I'm hearing is we need to capture more information from SSDC in terms of the weed spraying, the detail in terms of the products and options available to us, to have a conversation with Catch about the environmental impact, and then to consider any other options as part of a bigger piece of work. So am I hearing that is the proposal? Capture more information and have a conversation with Catch to capture any risk to the environment and the rivers and humans. And then the third one is look at options which could be used through volunteering or other. So is that what we're now saying? Those three elements are what we're now saying? Yes? So do I have a proposer for that? Councillor Power, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Smith, and a vote, please. So starting at the bottom, I'm going to make my way round. So I'm going to start with Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Old, Councillor Power, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Smith, Councillor Gazine, Councillor Edington, Councillor Waters, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow, and Councillor Vagg. So I believe that's a full set. There's no one against, no one abstaining, so that motion is carried. Okay. Yes, Councillor Tudgay.
Could also discuss this perhaps at one of the WEEP meetings, because it would fit under WEEP rather than the recreation ground.
Excellent, that's a really good choice.
So perhaps we could put it on the agenda for the next WEEP meeting.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I will organise that. Thank you. And remind me if I do, when I go out for agenda items, please, just to make sure it's there. And I will look to see how quickly we can do that. So thank you. Moving on then, if no one has any further comments, to number 6. This is now 6 online events. These are normally booked through our clerk. However, we need to have a discussion on how they will be managed. So if you're interested in any of these online courses, can you come back to myself and also Councillor Ralph as Chair of Personnel and Councillor Tudgay to see how we manage the securing your place so you don't have to pay in advance. So we'll look at where the options are around that. Okay, is everyone happy with that? Any comments or questions? If not, I'll move on. Next item is from Pam Williams in terms of securing a slot on the Wincanton Town Council meeting to update council and the town on the town regeneration work. So this was shared in in June, and then further in July. So in terms of putting us on the agenda, it would normally come to the stakeholder group as well, but I think it is an optimum time with the most recent publication of bids that have been available through the regeneration pot, to come back to council and give us an update. So would council be open to SSDC, Pam Williams and others coming to present about the regeneration plan and where they are with it currently? Yes. Can I have a nod, and then we can decide how we move forward? So in terms of that, do we need to vote, or can I just take it from the general consensus in the, yes, Councillor Tudgay?
I would simply put it on the next agenda, Chair.
Thank you.
Invite her to the next meeting.
So we'll invite them to the next meeting, which is the 24th of August. If due to annual leave, because it is August, it needs to move to the following one. That will be the first one in September. Is everyone happy with that? Yeah. And we'll offer them the same sort of slot we normally would for anyone coming in, which is roughly about 15 minutes with 5 to 10 minutes questions. Is that okay with everyone? Yep. Thank you. Lovely. Thank you very much. Next item is a complaint from a resident. This will be reviewed and responded to personally from council or the most appropriate route in due course. Yes,
Sorry,
Councillor
may I
Ward.
just ask a question? On one of the previous correspondence that you didn't read, you said that you prepared a reply to it and you'd shared it with councils or councillors. Well, I haven't seen that, so can you please forward it to me?
I will share it again. Yes, I have responded to that. That is I'll tell you what number that is. One moment. That is 4. Yeah, I believe that's 4.
Yeah,
and
if
I've
you
shared that with council, but it'll also go in writing to the individual. So yes, I will reshare. Can you note that as an action, Councillor Bagg? So I picked that up, please. Thank you. Moving on, going back to where I was. So point 8, as I said, we will respond appropriately in writing to that individual resident in due course. Point 9, we will review this in accordance with when we review the whole complaint and decide the best course of action, but it will be responded to in terms of either process or a formal response. 10, again, the same. We will be responding in due course. We have a written response will be shared to the member of the public who submitted let's find the words. It's not a complaint, it's more asking for a declaration of information, so that will be responded to in due course. We have one from point 11 is David Kenyan, which is in relation to observations of the 13th to the 7th meeting, and that's just for council to note, and the fact that SSDC has said that they recognise we want to review in 6 months' time. So that's just a note for council. Council as point 12, which is an auditor's observations, will be responded to in due course, formally from the council, and yeah, will be responded to in due course, formally. And the final, yes, Councillor Rold.
Sorry, I have been given some information on this, and this actually needs to be read out, noted and recorded in the minutes. And we do need to speak to Penny Ashton with regards to the internal audit to move it forward. I'm just trying to be helpful there.
Councillor Rold, I'm actually perplexed with what you've just said. So are you reading something?
No, we have been sent a copy of Penny's internal audit. I understand from our deputy clerk and clerk that it needs to be read out as part of correspondence, noted and recorded in the minutes for us to be able to progress the internal audit, which we need to do for the AGAR. So I'm trying to be helpful here with providing information.
Okay, I now understand what you're saying. Apologies, I just didn't.
Sorry if I didn't make myself clear.
So in the context of this statement, it's observations made by our internal audit. Today we will not be ratifying this document because we have not had sight of the full document, and there are some questions that need to be posed directly to the auditor before we can move forward with AGAR in any context, whether it's section 1 or further to section 2. So at this moment in time, this is noting that the auditor has submitted observations to bring to council. However, we are not signing them off. We will be asking for further information in due course. Thank you. The number 13 is the one we've already dealt with. There was planning. So Councillor Tudgay has said that he will be responding as our current planning officer to that in outlining the words that were spoken under planning point 5, sorry. And that is the end of correspondence for today, the 10th of August. Okay, thank you. So we're now moving to the final part of the agenda, which is items for consideration for the next agenda. So we've already stated that we'll be offering an item for SSDC to come and speak with us about regeneration, the regeneration recovery, regeneration plan and a progress update. I'm now going to open the floor to councillors to put forward any other items. So Councillor Power, I think his hand went up first.
I just had a few questions from the people down the skate park. They just want to know if they can have the lights on a little bit longer, because the lights turn off at 12 minutes past 9. And as it's summer holidays, they're down there much later than 12 minutes past 9. So they wanted to know for safety regulations if they could have the lights on a bit longer.
Okay.
That's an item for the next question, please. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Tudgay would like to respond to that, and then we'll make a decision as to whether it needs to go on and as formal agenda item can be picked up elsewhere.
I was going to suggest, Chair, that I speak with the work supervisor. It's only a matter of adjusting the timer. I think it's something that gets done most years. I suspect because of this virus thing that the clock never got altered when the clock's altered in the spring. So it may be something to do with that. I'll speak with the work supervisor and sort it out. All right.
Yeah, that's great. Councillor Powers, are you happy with that? That we won't put it as an agenda item, we'll just deal with it through the most appropriate mechanism?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. They just wanted it done as soon as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Tudgay will deal with that. Councillor Ralph is next, and then Councillor Edington, and then I have Councillor Hinks. So Councillor Ralph.
Hi, I have two items. The first one is the complaints panel will be submitting their terms of reference for ratification by full council. And then secondly, as the committee chair, it's my expectation that we may be in a position to submit the policies and the terms of reference, that is the personnel policies and the personnel committee terms of reference for ratification as well on the 24th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So terms of reference as a confirmed agenda item, and an expectation as chair of personnel that you'll be bringing the policies back on the 24th of August. Thank you. Councillor Edington, and then Councillor Hinks.
Yeah, I'd like to put on the agenda urgent funding for the sports ground for discussion.
Okay, thank you. And I will happily share with you the process that was confirmed to me, where the next conversation will take place around grant funding at that time. So thank you. And Councillor Hinks.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is an agenda item, but I'd like to know who this Simon Pritchard is, and also how come we're looking at employing another clerk, as it hasn't gone through the full council. Not that we're objecting to it, but it would be nice to have been told about it and not seen it anywhere else.
Okay, Councillor Hinks. May I just, Councillor Tudgay, do you want to speak, and then I'll go to the next item before responding to Councillor Hinks?
Well, I'd just like to say, Chair, that I did respond earlier this evening with an email. I spoke to the Deputy Clerk last week about several items. Amongst those items, one of the things we discussed was her holiday requirement. And as a result of the conversation, she told me that she'd already cancelled a couple of holidays because of the virus, but she would be taking some holiday at the end of the month. So it was felt appropriate to look for some cover for her in the event that the full clerk was unable to return to work. And that really, I was quite surprised to see the advert, but there is no sinister, there is no plot, there is no conspiracy. And before we did anything, it would have to come back to full council for ratification anyway. So, you know, I think to say that we're doing things behind people's back and all the rest of it is not the way forward. It was quite an innocent, quite an appropriate conversation I had with Muriel. I think it was a welcomed conversation, and that's the outcome.
Right, Councillor Old, is this an agenda item that you wish to discuss now?
No, it's in reply to Ray. I'm sorry, but you must be aware of how this looks, Ray. You must be aware. And if you're not, then I'm making it very clear to you now. It needs to stop. You are doing things and agreeing things outside of council that we are all responsible for. And that was drawn to my attention by a different council, and it's not on.
Thank you, Councillor Old. Councillor Tudgay, I suggest you don't respond now, because I'd like to bring the next agenda item. I'd like to put forward for the next item that I'd like to discuss. So what I'm now proposing is that, following the conversations we have had with our deputy clerk, and currently the position we are in terms of cover for our absent clerk and deputy clerk, I'm proposing an extraordinary meeting on the 19th of August at 7 p.m. and it is for the purposes of, as chairman, I can call the meeting, the delegation of responsibility to the Personnel Committee to be able to undertake that task. And in addition, legal advice for Wincanton Town Council. This is in relation to the Personnel Committee with delegated powers to act within, and also the Town Council in responses to members of the public. So that meeting is being, and I've shared with you the agenda item that will be on the night of the 17th of August. I will be posting that meeting in the town hall tomorrow. This is formal notification to councillors that that meeting will take place, and you will be summoned accordingly. So please, can I ask that following due process, you send your apologies if you're not able to attend. And if not, the papers regarding this will be shared with you very shortly, either tonight or tomorrow. So that's the agenda, that's the time, and that's the date of the EGM. In terms of any other business in relation to the agenda, is there anything else? If not, for the 24th, I'm now going to look to close this meeting. Councillor Hinks, do you wish to add an agenda item?
Oh, I'd just like to know who this Simon Pritchard is, please, as you did not tell me who he is.
It will be responded to in due course, Councillor Hinks. That's why I've shared with you the extraordinary agenda. Thank you very much. And so I'm now drawing this meeting to a close. I want to thank councillors, in particular Councillor Vagg and Councillor Gazine, for noting the minutes today and the actions and the votes, because that's really important. Clearly, this meeting is being recorded and it's currently live on YouTube. So the notes of the meeting will be typed up in due course, but the actions will be shared with councillor in due course. So thank you very much for your time. Have a great evening, and I look forward to seeing you on the 17th for those that can attend. Many thanks. Thank you. Bye-bye.